Step into the arena of minds. On this channel, every move is a clash of strategy, every sacrifice a turning point, and every game a battle for glory. Watch two players push the limits of creativity and calculation, as we bring you the drama, suspense, and excitement of chess like never before. Wesley So blasts the game open with 1. d4, a central pawn thrust that stakes out space and dares Guseinov to respond. War drums begin to roll. Guseinov answers sharply with 1. Ninjili. Endgame. F6, developing a knight to attack the center, and whispering prepare for a fight, while shoring up Kingside squares. Wesley So plays 2. F3, bringing his knight into the fray to control f5 and defend d4, a calm but hungry step towards central domination and flexibility. Guseinov fianquetos with 2 bunderjain, Wesley So counter. Anati. In manware, in semimedahe, in canmol, anaschedule will boa, and the steer. Antinanian. Bender. g6, preparing a dragon-like bishop on g7, and signaling counterplay down the long diagonal, subtle and venomous. Wesley So advances 3 tacticians, pedat tenut tacticians. c4, striking at the center and challenging black's setup. The pawn push screams ambition and forces Guseinov to decide the pawn structure. Guseinov fianquetos, fully with 3. Ai. And dem, and de war, in abdius solman, and skeptibi. Bg7, placing his bishop on the long diagonal where it will rain fire on white's center in the middle game. Wesley So develops for Tarantine, Penisi, develops for c3, another knight to the center, bolstering d5 ambitions and building a cohesive army poised to explode forward at the right moment. Guseinov castles for Piotr, piliin, monumentionen, Kandesh. Undi. Ananja. Tucking his king safely away, and readying rooks for the open files, pragmatic, solid, and hungry for counterplay. Wesley So strikes with 5. a4, a warrior's pawn pushed to the heart of the board. He grabs space and declares intent to dominate the center. Guseinov responds, 5 pilote. Unanisistrein. Nazirsi. Dix, a sturdy pawn to buttress the center and prepare for fights on the dark squares, keeping things flexible. Wesley So plays 6th penalty. Hey, a cheeky prophylactic to stop bishop or knight incursions, and to create luft, small but telling discipline from Wesley. Guseinov storms with 6 penalty, and a wilderness. Nante. Nandi. c5, immediately contesting the center and inviting tensions. The pawn thrust smells like blood, and a clash is inevitable. Wesley So pushes 7-10. d5, closing the center and launching the real middle game battle. His pawn storms forward like a battering ram at black's defenses. Guseinov replies 7-1. No man nia. And 1. Essex, opening lines and preparing to explode the center, a measured counterstrike to pry open white's ambitious wall. Wesley So retreats and develops 8. bd3, bringing his bishop to aim at black's kingside while keeping options to support the advancing pawns. Guseinov dramatically trades with 8-8. x5, capturing on d5 and tearing open the center to create tension and tactical possibilities. The battlefield rearranges. Wesley So recaptures fiercely with 9. x5, sending his e-pawn into the heart of black's position and saying, I accept your offer of chaos. Guseinov slides the queen out with 9. In Kilbis et paste. q7, checking the king, and aiming to exploit central lines, a probing, slightly theatrical strike. Wesley So calmly interposes, 10-2, rending den nächsten, heftig, in der Post 10. b3, developing and blocking the check while offering potential queenside control and tactical tricks in the future. Guseinov plants a bishop on 10. Ist. In. d6, aiming at e3 and provoking complications, a sly attempt to destabilize Wesley's harmony. Wesley So castles kingside with 11. Securing his monarch and rallying rooks into the fight, the battlefield gets denser, tension ratchets up. Guseinov pounces with 11. In Decisive, and more bescheidenes, an wing mejat penimain, under wood you, uktai, or lister. Enan, enai. exe3, the bishop takes on e3 and rips apart white's coordination, a sacrificial sounding bite that changes the texture of play d. Wesley So replies 12, Peptim munition, hadazistinian, kilbian. qa2, bringing the queen back to recapture, regroup, and keep the initiative, disciplined and ready to strike back. Guseinov develops 12 with thoughts. Isenin. NBD7, bringing another knight into defense and aiming to reroute into central squares, methodical and solid repositioning. Wesley So rooks in with 13, padding a pole in a seal restored, penidon steadies. Rayone, lifting his rook to the e-file to increase pressure, and prepared to contest the now open central lines. Guseinov plays 13 turnen, puts, and an epidemic. Winning, key. A6, A modest pawn move to stop b5 and gain luft for counterplay. Slow burning, positional fuel for later explosion. Wesley So immediately punishes with 14. Qx-e3. The queen captures on e3 and recovers material while simplifying into a sharper endgame structure. Guseinov retaliates into the trade with 14. En mo and fein a sin. En auna. Qx-e3. Exchanging queens to remove tension, but also to change the character to tactical, peace-driven combat. Wesley So answers 15. Xe3, a rook recapture that centralizes his heavy piece and prepares to dominate open files. The rooks are now hungry. Guseinov pushes 15. Unden. Antuwunden. Is a stillmanism town. Mondial 5. Launching queenside pawns forward to gain space and open files. Black wants activity and chaos on the wing. Wesley So repositions 16. Ndt2. Maneuvering a knight to reroute into the center and eye critical squares, patient and posture perfect. Guseinov plunges 16. 1 paw. Ande dan nis. Nefiv. A knight leap into central thunder, threatening forks and sharp tactical motifs. The board's pulse quickens. Wesley So calmly plays 17. In wo win first Sedian. B2. Repositioning his remaining bishop to support central and kingside defenses, keeping options open. Guseinov strikes east with 17. Inda. No domestin, nena discernikan, in still Nick c4. The knight gobbles the pawn on c4, and sows pawn structure chaos, while grabbing concrete material. Wesley So answers immediately with 18. Bxc4. The bishop snaps back to reclaim the knight and restore balance. Precise, punishing, theatrical recapture. Guseinov replies 18. Nasilin. Annen. Anti. Bxc4. A pawn capture that opens a passed pawn on c4 and transforms the structure into a dynamic, asymmetrical mess. Wesley So jumps 19. Petmokt 2. c4. A knight captures on c4 to mop up black's new passed pawn and reassert central control, tidy and forceful. Guseinov slides 19 Polen. Undenstein so. Inmieste. Indolo witchenet to benowin. Chasio nu. Ardate. Placing a rook on the d-file to contest the center and prepare pressure down the open lines, rooks waking up. Wesley So aggressively pushes 20. G4, swinging a pawn toward black's kingside, creating attacking chances and telling Guseinov that the kingside will burn. Guseinov calmly retreats bishop with 20. Enter. Enter de novo necessity. Prenyamabul 10. B7, lining up the long diagonal and eyeing white's central pawns. Quiet menace amid the chaos. Wesley So shifts 21 peta. Ardone, preparing to double rooks or contest d-file entry points, consolidating his heavy pieces for a coming storm. Guseinov, place 21, Tartene. Undersenai, Kibenos tenden, and Sil, Toldikoyan. Ins. A6, a small air pocket for his king, and a prophylactic against white's pieces hopping into g5, cautious yet practical. Wesley So shoves 22. Foul. A fearsome pawn thrust that aims to blast open the f-file and unleash pieces toward black's king. Tension turns to talk. Guseinov responds 22. Enda. And. Re8, placing a rook on the e-file to guard weaknesses, and to contest the now critical central files. Wesley So sacrifices material, with 23. H8. The rook captures on e8 and rips into black's fortress, daring Guseinov to respond to the rupture. Guseinov answers, 23, Paiste. 1. Annie. Anand, Tadenyon Moish. Nixie 8. A knight recapture that removes the invading rook, centralizes the knight, and keeps the king shielded. Gritty resourcefulness. Wesley So repositions, 24 Tire. Nayfall. A knight hop to a commanding central square, threatening tactics and stirring the pot, aggressive centralization. Guseinov doubles down with 24 Tyen, Decisive. And in Ben, Kiyosobe, Kistankweste, Multi-Westchen, und Lukshijane. Antonin. Date, returning a rook to the d-file to stabilize the center and prepare counter-operations along the file. Wesley So relocates, 25 star. D3, shielding his back rank and prepping lateral swings to the kingside. Clever rook gymnastics with clear intent. Guseinov nervously tucks his king with 25. In. Ba. In. In. Fight. Improving safety while keeping an eye on central and queenside skirmishes, cautious but necessary. Wesley So marches, 26. A4. A pawn push to limit black's queenside pawns and create targets. Small move with big strategic teeth. Guseinov. Inches 26. Powistoul. N. Ah. N. K7, stepping his king toward the center where it can support pawns, risky choreography as the battle heats up. Wesley So lifts 27, Kenin on Roadmish, tune. Re3, bringing the rook back into the heart of action, ready to swing and pressure any weak points in Guseinov's camp. Guseinov retreats 27. Perway. Instance. Anania. Kite. A defensive rotation to avoid tactics and wait for a moment to strike back. The king keeps moving under fire. Wesley So plants 28. NB6. A night invader deep in enemy territory threatening forks and provocations. A night that smells blood around Black's queenside. Guseinov counters 28. Nai. An. 5. Pawning forward to blunt White's kingside assault and open lines for his own pieces. Gritty, combative pawn warfare. Wesley So captures sharply with 29. GSF5. The G-pawn takes on f5 and tears open the kingside, while sacrificing structure for attacking chances. Guseinov replies 29. S. Nant. Went in a pen. It show me ches soye. GSF5. The G-pawn captures back on f5, opening a G-file, and leaving a tense pawn mass in front of his king. Wesley So repositions 30. NC3. Rerouting his knight to better squares and keeping pressure alive. A patient redeployment before the thunderclap. Guseinov shuffles 30. Alta. Nandan. Ninukinan mortes. Oet. Moelmin Kane. Case. Est state. NZ7. Bringing a knight to 7 to cover key squares and prepare to neutralize White's outposts, consolidating under fire. Wesley So pushes 31. Penetrating. Afiv. A pawn thrust to pry open Black's queenside armor and fix a target on b6 or b7. Relentless probing. Guseinov. Steps 31. Tacticians Erstenevs. Indicini. Annanenste. KF7. Ushering his king toward relative safety, and trying to untangle the web of threats around him. Wesley So quietly moves 32. KF duo. Bringing his king toward the center, in anticipation of endgame transitions, while keeping rooks connected. Guseinov repositions his bishop, with 32. Entisial. Elblante. Unamuseni. H8. An attempt to regroup the bishop to defend key dark squares and stop White's infiltration. Wesley So centralizes with 33. NC4. A knight shift that eyes f5 and b6 while keeping the pressure building. Elegant surgical redeployment. Guseinov replays 33. Nabois. And yet. N8. A knight retreat to reroute via f6 or 7, shoring up defenses and waiting for counterblows. Wesley So calmly plays 34. Rione. placing a rook on the e-file to contest open lines and prepare for central or kingside operations. Guseinov challenges, with 34, piliin. On me. Knight. Nf6, bringing the knight back into a defensive and tactical role, eyeballing e4 and g4 squares. Wesley So slides 35. Albone, a rook lift to the b-file, aiming to target black's queenside pawns, and coordinate with his a and b pawns. Guseinov replies 35. Nana no wow. One no, how b. K7, tucking his king a notch closer to the center again, a balancing act between safety and activity. Wesley So thrusts 36. b4, opening the b-file and trying to crack open Guseinov's queenside structure, a detective move seeking entry points. Guseinov answers 36. Antianeste. Endgame. Den Mezzolnis orientian. Cx-b4, the c-pawn captures on b4 and slices open the structure, trading clarity for complexity on the queenside. Wesley So captures back with 37. Rx-b4, a rook snatches the pawn on b4 and invades the open files, eager to exploit the fractured pawn grid. Guseinov develops 37, pen and Murbistin. In the day, Decisive. In the nanin. O, Cantiao. Decisive, placing his bishop on a defensive square to coordinate defense and cover key infiltration points. Wesley So boldly hops 38. Nb6. A knight re-enters enemy lines aiming to create outposts and bring chaos near black's kingside and queenside junctions. Guseinov fires 38. Tutta. Ein. An. Our gate, activating a rook toward g-file operations and trying to generate counterchances against white's king shelter. Wesley So retreats 39. Albone, pulling a rook back to recalibrate and keep pressure flexible across both wings, patient but ominous. Guseinov slides 39. Torste. Ent, K. Ninian, Nimonas Sien. Enyas Sail Kale, Tenchanister Bishamorder Tena, Istain Kinand, Ishia. Gate, a king move toward safety, and to connect defense with his pieces, cautious repositioning in a volatile arena. Wesley So repositions, 40k. nc4, the knight returns to central squares, ready to hop to a5 or b6 again, relentless pressure that never tires. Guseinov answers 40t. And in Entazingen, moderate Neissepain, Tualisen. K7, inching his king to 7 to shelter behind pawns and prepare for the endgame's uncertain terrain. Wesley So invades, 41 Teratoki, Guseinov. Our b6. A rook storms into b6, establishing a dominant outpost, targeting weak pawns and bringing the heat to black's fortress. Guseinov reacts with 41. Perstersobeni. Omontena. Entninisteninen. a5, pushing the pawn to blunt white's rook entry and create luft, but it also leaves holes for tactics. Wesley So strikes decisively with 42. Our ace d6, a rook capture on z6 that rips out a central pawn and detonates black's defensive barrier, explosive material grab.I. Guseinov replies 42. Tenwenoro, Anteres, Pomatoni. Ente, India Sistine. Nefora, a knight charge with check, trying to unlock tactics and complicate the position. A desperate, dynamic counter. Wesley So answers, 43. c4. A knight captures that intrusive knight and wipes away the immediate tactical threat with cool calculation and force. Guseinov responds, 43. Nina, esto istem stolnishu, and antan moktuan, istiko. fc4. The f-pawn captures on e4, and opens lines while creating a passed pawn and chaotic possibilities in the center. Wesley So slides, 44. a6. A rook scoops up the a6 pawn and creates a passed pawn for white while stripping black's queenside shelter, material plus momentum. Guseinov shocks with 44. End e. bx3. A bishop captures the pawn on h3 and claws at white's kingside shelter, creating counterplay and dark square threats. Wesley So charges 45. Testa dektimum. Iyong. a7. A rook leap to a7 delivering check and piling up threats. Wesley's pieces coordinate like a hammer seeking a nail. Guseinov staggers to 45 Deston. Internen, in den solidis sender, and more minor base simning. Nt. Right. His king sidesteps to bait, trying to escape the storm, while the board tightens like a noose. Wesley So swings, 46. Raise 7. A rook slides to h7, like a predator stalking black's weakened kingside, aiming to mate or rip pawns apart. Guseinov, tries 46 toinen neuen, terenes idowizek, adinen, chikta peptatratsibene. Wandani man. All. R8, bringing a rook to sate to contest the c-file and shield the back rank, a desperate attempt to organize defense. Wesley So centralizes, 47. F5, a knight jumps to a5 with thunderous intent, ready to exploit tactical seams and amplify the attack on black's king. Guseinov replies 47. Patino nonamistrubias etsedate. iyong. Ninen, piliin ijanopit kadero shisi. RC3. The rook infiltrates to c3, seeking counterplay, and to harass white's pawn structure, a last-ditch tactical stab. Wesley So advances, 48, tuppich. A6, marching his passed pawn closer to queening and forcing black to commit resources, an advancing menace on the board. Guseinov strikes 48. In many, they cow, bestiawano, in can. Ante. E3, a pawn thrust, with check, that reluctantly sacrifices tempo to create complications, and try to derail white's tempo. Wesley So calmly steps, 49. Ketu. His king moves toward the center to support the passed pawn and coordinate rooks. Practical, composed, and ready to queen. Guseinov, slides 49. Inman. Ina. Endgame. Ra3, aiming the rook to a3 to block the a-pawn's path and harass white's back rank, crafty defensive maneuvering. Wesley So pushes 50. A7, the pawn storms to a7 with check, a heartbeat moment as promotion looms and Wesley's attack smells inevitable. Guseinov retreats 50 pawn. Piliin Etin. Andian. Denimazere. Andani. Onina. Andenanalzi. Andowo. I9. Kite. His king scrambles to the corner trying to avoid mating nets while witnessing the a-pawn's terrifying proximity. Wesley So finishes with 51. Oh, AX-5. A final rook capture on AA5 that seizes material and leaves Guseinov's position fatally exposed. A triumphant, decisive blow. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to bring you even more exciting chess games. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.